Minecraft's newest update just released. It's called the Copper Age, and as you can guess, it brings new copper blocks to the game and even a little friend, plus vertical slabs. So to celebrate the release of 1.21.9, here are 21 build ideas using everything added. We have a ton of new blocks, so let's break this into categories. First up, we have the Copper Golem. This is a copper mob and is able to sort items placed in a copper chest. They are very easy to make. You just gotta place a copper block and a carved pumpkin. That gives you the Copper Golem and the chest. To get the statue, just let the golem oxidize until it freezes. For idea number 1, we can use the Copper Golem as columns. Columns are a classic architecture detail, and adding the golems just adds a little bit of life to them. We can take advantage of the poses and oxidation states to tell a bit of a story, and also be sure to use a slab to make our golem continuous with the column. Next, we can use the Copper Golem as a toy. They look like little toy robots and would fit great in any sort of playroom or toy store. Plus, you can even make them sit on a little shelf. I love how detailed they are and how well they work for decoration. Now, the oxidized copper looks great with, well, oxidized copper and prismarine, so we could take advantage of this and create Minecraft's version of gargoyles. Especially on a tall build, you just have these little statues standing over and keeping watch. In a similar vein, we can use the golems as some sort of guardian. First, create your build, whatever it may look like, place a couple blocks for the copper golems to sit on, and then you can place it down. I love using the exposed variant with the granite and jungle wood to create a sort of ruin, but it's good to know these guys will always have your back protecting your builds. For idea number 5, we can take advantage of how cute the Copper Golem is and let it hang out in a little garden. It looks like a little fantasy creature just having a moment of peace, and I love putting it on a little island in a pond. He's just so adorable and adds some life to your builds. To wrap up our Copper Golem ideas, we can use them as architecture details. So if we just place a lightning rod upside down and a statue, we get a dangling statue, and while it's simple, it just makes your builds a bit more interesting and colorful. Now, do you remember when I said we get a chest when we make our Copper Golem? Well, we can use those chests in a storage system. Now, for any sort of technical build, like a lab, redstone machine, or mechanical build, we can take advantage of the chests. It makes your storage system more aesthetic and help it blend into the build for once. Which, is it just me, or do storage systems always stick out like a sore thumb? Anyway, we don't get that many storage blocks, much less colorful ones, so we can take advantage of the bright copper chest with Halloween coming around the corner. And a nice creepy build, we can set out our chest for any sort of trick-or-treaters. Maybe add some sort of scare for anyone foolish enough to take more than one piece of candy. Now, I hope you have a beeswax farm, because our next group of blocks is going to be the lantern, chain, bar, and lightning rod. Thankfully, these items have the same crafting recipes as their iron variants with, well, copper instead of iron. Anyway, for idea number 9, we can use the exposed copper bar to create trees. We're going to use wood for our trunk, the fence for our branches, and the bars for our finer twigs. Cover that with a variety of leaves and we get a very nice looking tree. When building custom trees, it's important to have airiness between branches and leaves, and having the bars allows you to do just that. We can also use the copper bars to create columns. They allow a finer degree of control, and with our columns, we go from a wall to a fence to a bar and then out again, and we get a nice curve to our details that really helps break the sort of blocky nature of what Minecraft is. We can use our chain variants to create some hanging plants. Just use a chain, a pot, and some sort of tall plant, and we get these very cute plants here. They definitely give off cottagecore vibes. As for plants that work best, we can use a cactus, azalea bush, some torch flowers, or even some nether sprouts. Sorry, warped roots. Anyways, we can also use our copper blocks to make a fence. We're gonna have some posts, 2 lines of stairs running between them, and then our chains or our lightning rods running between. I use this sort of idea for my Circus Mega Base, but I would have loved to have these copper variants when I was building that. For idea 13, we can use the new copper as a wiring. The copper already looks very technical, and with these block shapes, it even looks more so. We can use chains for wires, bars and lightning rods for supports, and our lanterns as little light sources. To me, it's the builder's equivalent of redstone. It still looks technical, but it's not something you have to spend forever figuring out. Now, the lantern has this very weird green hue to it, and it gives off a very eerie or earthly glow. So you can put this on a rock formation in the middle of a forest. Just imagine wandering at night and coming into a clearing and seeing this. Is it some person that's here? Some supernatural being? I don't know, it's creepy. And finally, we can use the lanterns and the bars as interior lighting. There's lots of variants you can create, but really it's about using an iron bar, sticking a lantern on top, or hanging it from the bar. It adds color and detail in a subtle way, and I think it would look great in any sort of castle. For our last group of blocks, we have the shelf. The shelf has several different functions. First, you can use it to store your items and put them on display. You can also power these shelves, and if you just right click it, it swaps out your hotbar. You can also use the shelves as vertical slabs, and let me tell you, they look amazing. For idea number 16, we're always going to have unexpected deaths. So in those situations, it's good to be prepared and have an emergency set of tools. Not only does this keep you ready for anything, it adds a little bit of humor to when things go wrong. We can also use shelves to create pedestals. They're super easy to make, just a stripped wood with 4 shelves surrounding it. Place your item on top and you have the perfect display for showing off any of your valuables. This would look great in any sort of base to show off your adventures, or a museum showing off the history of your world. Now, creating interiors is often crowded, and especially for small builds is even more so. So instead of using bulky full blocks for your interior walls, we can just use shelves. They create the illusion of having a full wall without actually taking up the entire space. Also, comparing the two, the shelves just look so much better. This next one might be my favorite idea. We can use these shelves as wallpaper. We can fit so much detail into our shelves by placing blocks in them. Specifically, I like the banners the most. They take up the most space inside a shelf and have all these fun colors, so you can create cool patterns. You can use a loom to create even fancier banners and more intricate wallpapers. But even taking advantage of the barren shelf with its little details looks great. Or you can add some fences and gates to create some simple patterns. For some extra decoration, we can use the shelf in a bookshelf. Just use some trapdoors to create the walls and the floor of the bookshelf, and add in a couple shelves here and there to display our items, plus some little knickknacks, and we have the perfect interior decoration. Much like the wallpaper, we can fit a ton of detail into one block. And finally, for idea 21, we can use shelves to detail our exteriors. It looks great to texture the exterior of any sort of build. I just love this little sort of sideways ladder shape we have going on. And if you want to get fancy, you can place items inside the shelf for an extra accent color. It's just a solid looking block and one that is going to be used everywhere. And before you know it, that wraps up our 21 build ideas for the Copper Age. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed these build ideas. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe and comment which design was your favorite. Like I said, I love the wallpaper. It adds such a unique element to creating interiors. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching and have a great day.